My gardening journey started around 2020. I got a tower garden from Juice Plus, and I grew a lot of greens, lettuce, collards, simple things like that. And I must say it went pretty well. I just felt very limited in what I can grow. And also the unit was very cumbersome. It was difficult to set up and maintain and dismantle year after year and put back together. So I did that for a couple years, and then in 2022, I decided I wanted to try something different. So I decided to try raised bed and container gardening. Based on my experience, I thought this was the direction to go in. So I went all in. I bought the containers of every size. I got my how-to books. I joined Facebook groups. I watched all the YouTube videos. I bought soil. I bought fertilizer. I bought all the spray bottles and water containers. I got the wood. I made my own raised beds with my own two hands. I was in there. I was getting myself dirty and putting the work in. And I just took off with it, really excited and just expecting the best. And I was attempting to grow it all too. It was recommended you started with one or two things when you're starting. That's what a lot of the books said. But I was like, nah, I got this. So I attempted to grow okra, cucumbers, zucchini, watermelon, what else? Green beans, beets, peppers, tomatoes, spinach, and various herbs. So here I go. I fill up my containers with soil, put in some seeds, add some water, a little bit of mulch, and I waited for the abundance of all these fresh fruits and vegetables, imagining myself having these big salads. And, I just had this whole oasis idea, all these greens growing in my backyard. Let me just tell you, it did not work out that way. I planted most of the stuff in containers. I planted the okra, tomatoes, green beans, cucumbers, peppers, and some of the herbs. In one of the beds, I planted the watermelon, and in the other ones, I planted the beets, spinach, and maybe some other greens. I don't remember. I just remember nothing grew. It was just an empty bed. Something would start to grow, and then it would stop. So there was a lot of that going on. So with the okra, the plant got really tall, but I only harvested 3 okra pods, just 3. It wasn't really anything you can do with that, so I ate it raw. I just picked it off and ate it that way. And it was delicious. It was actually crunchy and it had a kind of a sweetness to it. But I was just disappointed that I didn't get more of them. The cucumber grew pretty well. It was flowering and everything, and a lot of the cucumbers would start growing. But now knowing what I know, I guess it just didn't have the energy to keep producing fruit. So these fruit producers, I'm learning now, require a lot of nutrients. I managed to get 1 whole cucumber. It was crunchy, it was delicious, it was everything. Oh yeah, and then a green bean. I got 1 green bean. It was discouraging to say the least. With the beets, I got beet leaves, so I was able to have some beet greens here and there, but never got any beets. The peppers didn't do anything. I had no success with tomatoes. The zucchini, the plant grew but didn't bear any fruit. And herbs, I got nothing. So I just got a bunch of empty containers for the most part. So what am I doing wrong? I don't know if I was overwatering, not watering enough. It was a hot summer. I mean, there's so many variables when it comes to planting and growing your fruits and vegetables. So it's a lot to this. The Journey to Healing Food Shopping Guide is your resource to making healthier food choices next time you go to the grocery store. Grab your copy today at healthyshoppinghabits.com. Healing starts in the kitchen. Begin your journey to healing today. Go to healthyshoppinghabits.com. Once again, that's healthyshoppinghabits.com. So give your local farmer a hug, your gardener a hug, because they know what they're doing. It takes a lot of skill to be a farmer or a gardener. So much respect to you out there that are growing this food, because it's hard. It is not easy. Very fulfilling, but it's not easy. But I did get to harvest 2 sugar baby watermelons last year. And let me tell you, they were the best watermelons I have ever had. And if it wasn't for those watermelon, I probably would have given up altogether. That experience from last year was enough to say, you know what, let me try this again. I wanted to grow more of my favorite things. I wanted to grow more okra, more cucumbers, and the watermelon was amazing. I want to plant more watermelon. So I decided to commit to trying to learn a little bit more. And I know this is a work in progress. I have faith that this year will go a whole lot better than last year. There's things that I have to do a better job of monitoring. I have to monitor pH. Fertilization is important. Making sure the crops are getting enough sun. There's this balance between overwatering and underwatering. There's a whole art to this. You really got to understand nature and the rhythms of nature and the timing of nature. And you have to understand when to plant and what to plant, and also when to harvest. Gardening does take preparation. I did start late last year, so that probably had a lot to do with it. So what I did this time was just try to plan a little better. I didn't realize how much planning takes place when you decide to garden. In February, I started doing the seedlings and waiting for the right time to plant it outside. You got to wait till after that first frost, yada, yada, yada. I mean, there's a whole thing to it. So I'm making some more garden beds, getting soil. I've been composting all of last year. I've been mixing in the soil with the compost and getting ready for planting my seeds. Even though I felt like I was preparing, I did get overwhelmed, because not only is there raised bed gardening and container gardening, there's planting in bags, planting in buckets. I mean, there's so much out there. I was even contemplating whether or not to have a greenhouse. So this was all going on in my mind this year. Like, do I need to get bags? Do I need to get a greenhouse? Do I need to pull out my tower garden? And while I was making my 3rd garden bed, I'm sitting here, okay, where should I put it? If I get a greenhouse, where will that go? Am I doing too much? I just got overwhelmed. So I think I had to go through this experience to really understand the process that it takes to move beyond that, because I would have given up a long time ago. But you got to get through that frustration. You got to get through that learning curve. And I was willing to do it. And it included throwing wood across the yard. It included a little bit of venting, because I got upset and I didn't know what else to do. But something inside of me said to keep going. So after my temper tantrum, I had texted a carpenter I've known for over a year now, and he's done some amazing work around the house. And he actually came by the next day and he was like, why do you want a greenhouse? And I was thinking, maybe that's what's missing for me. That's probably what I need to succeed in this gardening journey, because I was frustrated with building the beds and I just really wanted to work so badly. His question was right on time, because I had done some research on greenhouses as well. And it did seem like a lot of work. You got to have temperature control. You have to have all these light panels. I mean, ventilations and all this stuff. So it seemed like a whole new house for plants. And a part of me was like, this might be too much for me with the little experience that I had, because then you got to deal with the dynamics of the greenhouse. So anyway, he happened to bring his tiller. He was like, you know what, let me do a patch of land so he can see what we're working with. So he got his tiller and we did a small area, and it looked like I had a pretty good layer of soil. In Georgia, you got that red clay, but it was actually pretty good. So we went ahead and tilled the whole area, and I had already put down some garden beds and planted some tomatoes and collards. But I pulled that up and we just ended up tilling the whole area. It was beautiful. I mean, it was thick. It had worms in it. I don't know what that means really, but I just knew if you had worms in your soil, it's pretty good. And it really gave me hope. He was just talking about just plant in the ground. Why you want a greenhouse? Plant in the ground. And I was like, yeah, that's how I remember seeing it. When my mother had a garden, I don't remember ever seeing containers and bags. But let me just say, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If you're successful with it and you know how to do it, go for it. But this is my story. This is just what I went through. It just wasn't resonating with me. It just wasn't fitting with me. I was very unsuccessful. But once he started tilling the soil and I started to be able to put my hands in it and dig into it, there was this peace that came over me. It was a sigh of relief. The stress left my body and I knew that I was going in the right direction. So I'm in the beginning of this journey. And I'm going to be sharing my journey because what I'm going through and what I'm seeing relates to health in so many ways. I always talk about organic food, but when you're actually seeing how the food is created and what it actually takes to grow good food, you start to look at things differently. Like that watermelon that I grew last year is way more better than a watermelon that I'll find at the grocery store. So I'm back at work. And I was talking to several clients that do gardening, but one client made a point that changed everything. And he asked me, did you test the soil? And he talked about the importance of balance. We need that balanced soil because that's what's going to help the plants thrive. It takes less work in the growing process when the soil gets what it needs. And he's right about that because you got to know what you're working with. And once you have that balance, then you can grow. So I had already started planting, but he still encouraged me to go ahead and test the soil. When he was telling me this was key to me. It's what I do, but for the body. I look at nutritional deficiencies. I look at how the body's functioning. When you repair the deficiency, then your body is healthier and it can produce better. That's the same with our food. When the soil is nutrient, so will the plant be. Because there's a lot of areas, especially in modern farming, where these fruits and vegetables are raised in soil that contains no nutritional value. So these fruits and vegetables that many of us eat every day has very little, if any, nutritional value. And that was key to me. And that helps me understand why I wanted to grow in the ground, because it resonates with who I am. So now my goal is to make my soil rich in nutrients. Therefore, my plants will thrive. And those nutrients will be in my fruits and vegetables. I will eat those fruits and vegetables, and those nutrients will enter my body. This is way better than eating foods in the grocery store. This is way better than relying on nutritional supplements. So I'm really fascinated in this next phase of my journey and correlating the health of the soil to the health of the plant and how it can correlate to our bodies. A lot of us, when we're in the healing journey, we'll go straight to the diet and we'll run to our local grocery store and get our fruits and vegetables, but we're still not doing well. But that's because if the nutrients aren't in the fruits and vegetables, we're not getting it in our body. So we ourselves have to understand our nutritional deficiencies. This is why I do blood work, is to understand your nutritional deficiencies. This is nothing new to me. It just clicked in a different way. I knew the importance of soil because I choose to eat organic foods, but this has taken me to a different level of nutritional deficiencies. You gotta know where you're at. So back to my client that was talking about test the soil, you gotta know what you're working with. If I'm deficient in nitrogen, I'm gonna have a hard time growing crops. So that probably explains why my cucumbers, okra, and green beans weren't thriving last year. It was lacking nutrients. Yesterday, I started collecting samples, so I'm looking forward to getting those results to take my soil to a whole nother level. Because I was just guessing. I didn't really have any particular details on what was needed. I was just doing some general all-purpose fertilizer. And a lot of us approach our health that way. We got to understand what nutrients we need in our own bodies and learn to get it from our food. And that's what I'm excited about in this journey, just educating you in a different way. This is what the Heal Deal is about, getting to the root of our healing issues. I think I needed to kind of remind myself how overwhelming it could be for you guys to really understand why you feel the way you do. So it's really training me to get back to the basics. And I now have a newfound respect for sustainable and organic farmers and gardeners. Shout out to all of you who are doing it the right way. And to those of you who have organic farmers and gardeners in your community, I encourage you to support them, because this is hard work and this is real work. And I'm learning that people that farm or garden are some of the most intelligent, the most hardworking people out there, because they understand nature and timing and how it works. And even though my focus is on health, they know it from the standpoint of the plant. People that understand gardening and the plant cycles are innately healthy. They have just as much knowledge in nutrition and health as I do, but in a different way. You don't need a doctor's degree to know this stuff. So I'm in a position that I want to take this information and share it, because we all can become healthy. We all can grow our own medicine. These herbs, these fruits, these plants is the original medicine. Now we've been conditioned to live in these homes without yards. We're tearing down our trees. We're putting pesticides in our grass. But what I recently start to understand is a lot of those herbs that are in our backyard that we call a nuisance, a lot of it is food. A lot of it is medicine. We are actually destroying the things that can heal us unknowingly. And that's something else that I'm trying to understand, is foraging and understanding these herbs that are in my backyard. So there's so much in our backyards that we don't even know we have. We're dealing with increased food prices, so we got to do something to combat this increase in food prices. A lot of these things we shouldn't have to buy over and over again. We could replant potatoes. We could replant our seeds. But we have lost our ability to do that. We have relied on these grocery stores. What happens if these grocery stores run out of food? What do you think is going to happen? People are going to panic. People aren't going to know what to do, not realizing that they could start producing a lot of their own foods. And we're getting to the point where we need to know this. Anyway, let me get back on the topic. Modern farming is not sustainable. It's only good for the short term. It's highly destructive. It depletes our soil and contaminates the air and water. The world has moved so far from nature. It's incredible. We're now forcing crops to grow in depleted soil. Crops have been genetically modified to either grow pretty much anywhere, to speed up growth, to look and feel a certain way, but the nutritional value isn't there. If it's not grown properly in the soil, you will not have the proper nutrition. So not only are crops grown in depleted soil, in turn, we're also forcing our bodies to function in a depleted state. And we're suppressing that or managing that with synthetic medications and supplements. We're dealing with our food and our bodies in such a mechanical way. But if we're not going back to nature and what we need to do, this situation is only going to get worse. Nature is about balance. When nature is balanced, nature thrives. When your body is balanced, your body will thrive. So if our soil is toxic, so are we, because that's where our food comes from. I used to say that healing starts in the kitchen, but healing starts beyond the kitchen. It starts in the earth, in our soil. Healthy soil contains trillions of beneficial microorganisms that are necessary for our digestive health. So when we get this healthy balance in our bodies, then we can avoid a lot of these diseases that we are now treating with medications and antibiotics. So if we could find that balance and correct these deficiencies, a lot of these illnesses that we see today become history. Let me end with this. What happens in our bodies mirrors what's happening to our planet, to our soil, to our air, to our water. So as a whole, the world can't heal until the planet does. We have to fight to be healthy. Health is on your shoulders. It's based on your decisions. Healing is the rule, not the exception. And we got to do what we can every second, every minute, every hour, every day to be healthy. Your best investment should be in the land. Your best investment should be growing food. Your food investment may be your best investment, and nobody's talking about that. Gardening, it is a beautiful thing. It's become form of a meditation. It's keeping me grounded in this world of chaos. And it just makes me realize that if I'm giving to the earth, if I'm nourishing the earth, it will give back. The key to gardening for me is to get the nutrients from the food. I want more dense nutrition because I'm finding that a lot of the food that I've been buying isn't working. The quality of the food is getting worse and worse. And that's why I want to take some of these matters in my own hands and make sure I'm getting the nutrients that I need to survive. So let's just see how it goes. And I'm looking forward to sharing more of my gardening journey in the weeks to come. And until next time, go out there and achieve more freedom in your health and your life. Take care.